green screen or green is the color these days. So this is why we using green here and green here. Anyway, let's move to the webinar. We're going to give you a brief intro on why you should learn RealFlow, then kind of the essence behind anything that you do inside RealFlow, RealFlow 101, and quickly enough we'll dive into RealFlow 2013 because I'm pretty sure that what you want to see is how things are done in real life. So first of all, why RealFlow? Well, RealFlow is widely spread software. It's used in pretty much any industry, not only in VFX, but you get to see RealFlow work alongside websites, in web banners, in magazines, in printed adverts, in TV series, commercials, and of course in film industry and big scale simulations. If we quickly go to the RealFlow website, this is a video that one of our beta testers just uploaded. So you also get a premium view of something that got just released online. And it's a very nice making of on how has they achieved this simulation of the jet skis, how they have integrated it. So we will be showing you how to do these things later on. But before we go there, we go to the RealFlow homepage. And as I was saying, if you click on the videos, you may see all the different categories of work one can expect from RealFlow, from being in movies to be using TV commercials and games. And via the case studies, you may be able to learn some of the tips and tricks that these people have been using while doing this. So if we click in movies, for example, we see some of the recent movies where it has been used. Probably The Impossible is the most spectacular one because they filmed pretty much 99% of the water, but they needed RealFlow in most of the shots just to blend together all the real with the CG that they did on green screen. Resident Evil from Mr. X in Toronto is on our homepage, and it's been there for quite a while. It's a massive, massive simulation that the guys at Mr. X in Toronto did, amazing stuff with high Real 1, so it was RealFlow 2012 still. In Red, RealFlow was used to do blood splatters all over, very nice slow motion shots. The usual Ice Age franchise that they have RealFlow in every single of their movies. Pirates, tons of shots. You may have seen this amazing work that Chris Sawyer, sadly passed away, did at the end of the film with the whale coming out of the water. And we could go on and on and on. I mean, the credit titles for Girl with Dragon Tattoo, amazing stuff that was well praised all over the world. Same in TV and commercials. We have back shots, we have all sort of fluids like gluey, this amazing RealFlow and Maxwell shot from Lumiere in London that is not only tricky because of the scale of the particles, but the illumination that they had to do on all that particles. The Sinbad TV series work that the Mill did in London as well, where Andy Guest was showing of his skills in RealFlow. And again, multiple variations of the software being used to do all sorts of stuff. So it's not only that it's widely used, it's a tool that you have to have because it allows you to do a broad range of simulations. Games, again, more and more it's being used not only for the cinematics intros, but also for in-game. Some games like Crysis have their Alien School with in the game with RealFlow. Uncharted was using RealFlow Hybrid 1 meshes. And if we go into the case studies, you can see what we were talking about, having nice insight of how the companies use that. So that's a place where you can also go and get some inside tips and tricks on how to do things. RealFlow artists are always in demand. There is a huge demand for RealFlow artists. That's one of the things that we wanted to stress on why RealFlow. We get calls from many, many companies looking for people, and there is only a small bunch of artists that at least are announced in our website or available most of the time. So if you get into RealFlow, kind of you secure a job in the VFX industry, and at least you add something extra to the arsenal of tools that you may know already. RealFlow 101. This is kind of the paradigm of RealFlow. I keep telling people that RealFlow is straightforward to use, and some people think the opposite, but when you get into it, and I will show you in a minute, you will see that it's fairly intuitive. And most of the shots, not saying all of the shots that you will be doing with RealFlow, can be simplified as having a fluid solver emitter colliding with some geometry and driven by forces. Daemons, as we call them inside RealFlow. So what type of scenes are we going to be seeing today? I'm going to be trying to show you how to do things like this melting effect that was very well praised all over our websites when it was out from Amnesty International. I think it was this pack shot from the Christmas postcard that we sent to all our customers last Christmas. The tricky of all time, which is the crown splash, which if any of you have ever tried to do this with any software, it used to be a nightmare, not anymore. I can show you that. Also this type of shots, like you have cars running over puddles and splashing out. And finally we'll go into hybrid and try to do this rolling wave. We'll show you how this was done and how easy and intuitive can it be. So let's move into RealFlow. First of all, I'm pretty sure you have seen the interface by now. We've been showing bits and pieces every now and then. In this version, the main thing that strikes the viewer when it comes into RealFlow 2013 is this relationship editor. Now it has even its nice icons. Since I have reduced the size of the screen to show the presentation, I think it's coming out a bit smaller than it should. Let me try and correct that. If I close the PowerPoint, yeah, I will get to full screen. So I hope you can still see that. Yes, you can. Okay. So here is the refresh interface of RealFlow 2013, where we have these nodal graphs, and the 1, 2, 3 that I was telling you about is have a fluid emitter, add the force, add the geometry, connect them together. Like the force is going to be affecting the fluid is going to be colliding with the geometry, and that straight out the box. And I'm going to do this here. Oh, and it's sending me to command line. This is a new feature also. By default, it sends simulations to command line. We can untick that and simulate in the viewport. Just 3 clicks, and we have something running. Probably the next step when doing anything inside RealFlow will be meshing the simulation. We have 3 meshing algorithms here. One is for small scale or the particle-based solvers, the particle mesh. Particle mesh legacy is the old one that we still keep there, but this one, although some people like it, is mono-threaded. So I'd rather encourage you to use and learn this one, which is faster and multi-threaded as well, the render kit measure. And for large scale, you will use the hybrid mesh. In this case, we will have to go with this one. So instantly it connects to the circle, and if we open this here, we see that the particle measure has the circle underneath. We can here select the radius of the particle, so how are they going to be looking for the other particles in order to calculate the mesh, among other things. I can use some particle filtering. And in here we will be deciding the polygon size that we want in the final mesh. We're going to leave everything by default right now and just simply right click, hit build. And while I'm doing this, for those of you that already know RealFlow, you may have noticed that we have added this here as well. We have simulation visibility, shading, and export available for every node on the right click menu, which is very, very handy. You don't need to go to the export central, which is something that will go in a second. So if I right click and do build, we have a mesh. So cool, we have that mesh straight away. If we hit F6, we now get a Maxwell render preview of that mesh. So easy and intuitive. We can have, even in every single node, we have preset material. So if we want this to be water, just simply select the water material and water it is. So all straightforward. I just wanted to give you a quick run through the interface before we get into the examples. What else can we see here? New icons. We have the Maxwell tab where we can set the preferences for Maxwell. Again, very straightforward, very intuitive, nothing to worry about, all normal parameters. Please go for it by a scene. If you want to set these Maxwell global parameters for the future, you will have to go to preferences and go inside the preview. One thing to notice about Maxwell is Maxwell inside RealFlow is just for previews and won't require a Maxwell render license. What does that mean? It means that if you are working with the RealFlow pipeline, which if I go back again to the website, scroll a bit, it should be fine. Yeah, okay. So we have the RealFlow nodes, which are used to be in the farm, and we send the simulation to the farm. They will have a Maxwell render engine inside, so you will be able to generate your previews in the farm, which is the main point of having Maxwell inside RealFlow. So you can come here and say, this is the Maxwell Fire engine, the interactive. This is send Maxwell previews to command line, and there should be another button here somewhere. What is it? Let me check. Can't find it now. Good. Okay, here, not here. So we can send the simulations to the job manager or the Maxwell preview to the job manager. I'm not going to be running the job manager now. It will be way too long in this webinar to explain how to connect the network, etc. So what else is in the interface that you should be aware of, like new stuff? Probably if you come into the options for simulation, we have changed this into 3 tabs. First one is the general one where you set up the frames per second for the simulation, the number of threads that you're going to be using, and also the stepping for the particle-based solver, the all-time SPH inside RealFlow. So this tab is the one that you will be using when you're working with all these emitters here, and also with the emitters from RealWave, which are SPH-based. If you are using the large-scale solver, the higher one, the new one, then you will go to the second tab, and you will have 2 different tabs for stepping. One will be for the flip solver, and the other one will be for the high SPH, which is the solver that we have implemented for the secondaries in this version. So they run faster and use or make better use of the memory. And you also have here the OpenCL GPU capabilities, GPU and CPU. This only works with the flip solver. So this has to be tied just with the flip solver, which is the basic simulation on large scale. By clicking system information, you will instantly see if your device has OpenCL 1.1, which is the minimum requirement for being able to send your flip simulations to the GPU as well. Honestly, we haven't seen a huge gain by using the GPU, but we have measured up to twice as fast. So it's something to bear in mind. If you have a simulation that runs in 10 hours, you may have it ready by 5 hours. So we need just to do a bit more tests. So now that we're here, finish. What else is to show? Okay. I think we will start with the first example, which is trying to do some melting exercise. So this might crash. No. Okay. I have a melting scene here. As I was saying earlier, the paradigm of RealFlow keeps saying the same. It's the same. It's just a fluid emitter, some geometry to collide with some forces. So again, we have another fluid emitter here. It's also being driven by this force. The gravity is just a directional force, and it's not colliding with anything. We could make it collide with the plane. You see this hub here, and this is for those of you that know RealFlow. This is similar to using the global links in the previous version. So if we press a tab key in the viewport, we have the add to default hub. So if we start typing anything new here, like another circle emitter, for example, this doesn't come and link to anything because the hub is not active by default. If we activate that, and then we create a circle again, then it will be linked to the hub. So everything is thrown in the pot of the hub. We might not want that. Why? Because if I right-click and view the implicit connections, it's going to show us that this is connected to this and also connected to that. We may not want that. So that's why sometimes we prefer to simply connect things directly. Some other times we prefer to connect them via hub. Good thing is that this system of nodes that we call relationship editor won't allow you to connect things that are not supposed to be connected. So if I don't see any nodes here that I can do that with, but it might come in a different example. If I try to drag a line, which is simply by dragging in the center to this, it connects a gravity to that. But sometimes it won't allow you, and it will gray out this one. So what does this do? We have an object. If we hit reset, it's a fill object. And probably we need to show the object here. A fill object that is going to be, fill object emitter that is going to be filling this cross geometry. So if we hit reset, we should see some particles there. All right, there they are. So these particles are, we decided to have them as dumb. Won't go anywhere if we don't connect them to the gravity, for example. So if we hit simulate, this gravity that we have bounded won't affect them. If we link the gravity to that and we do it again, then they will go down. Okay, now there is a trick here. I'm lying to you because I didn't explain what all this was doing. There is the filter diamond. Let me disable that. I can do it by using the shelf. I can come here and say simulation inactive. So it's inactive, it has a red dot there. Right now, only the fill object is active. The container is an auxiliary meter that I have decided to put in this scene. So things will go down, that's it, period. If we want to create something that is melting, probably what we want is to transfer those particles that are falling under the influence of the gravity and move them, shift them to the container emitter. So if we just change the color of the container, I don't know if we have changed, and we activate the filter diamond, it can be found here. We say we want all the particles in the source emitter, which is a fill object, being moved to the target emitter if the condition that we have set to be speed is greater than 0. Since they're going to be affected by the gravity, at the beginning they don't have any velocity, but once they are kind of go inside the box, they will have velocity and they will be transferred. Let's see if that happens. So if we move it, and it's not happening because this is inactive, so we have to activate that. Now, if we click on the container, we see that we have particles in here and also particles in there. So if we click both of them at once, we can see that we have two different emitters sharing the initial particles that the fill object had. And why is this a melting effect? Because we decided that the second emitter where we shifted the particles, instead of being damp particles, they were liquid, and we played with some viscosity and some surface tension. So you see these are gooey particles, not like these ones that were damp, and we're making them collide. So those viscous particles slide on top of the other ones. So we simulate, they will go to the floor, and we could play a little bit with the floor friction or particle interaction if we wanted to make them sticky. Put 100 as a value, make the node bounce, and maybe add like 10 the particle friction as well. They will stick better to the floor. It's tons of things that you can do. You just need to go and do your R&D and keep testing this stuff. And if we hide these ones, we can now introduce a mesh. And something also new in the particle measure is the anisotropic measure that will give us thinner meshes. Since we have two emitters, it's going to ask us either to insert all the emitters or just decide which one we want to mesh. So we can say, okay, in this case we want it both, so we can say all, and the particle mesh is going to be linked to both. So if we right-click now on the emitter, we will have a mesh for that. And if we just simply come here and select, let's say, something that is viscous, like honey, and we press F6, we get honey there, no time, real-time 3D with Maxwell. So it's pretty cool to have these type of effects. So let's move to the next one, which was, and I closed the slide, so I can't remember now what it was. Blood splatters. Okay. This is probably one of the most demanded ones as well. Again, if you look at the relationship editor, we have particle emitters, and there is a filter somewhere there. So again, we're going to be shifting particles from one to the other, this time based on a different condition or particle collision. So we're going to be shifting the particle from this emitter into this container, and this is the one that's going to be suffering all these forces or demons. And it's also going to be colliding with the geometry, which is just a simple torus. There are tons of ways, and this is a thing that I have to also tell you, that once you are asked to do something in RealFlow, there might be multiple ways of doing the same thing and achieving the same result. Sometimes ones will be faster than others. It just depends on how quick you learn the different tips and tricks that you will master these ideas. For example, this is blood splatter, and I have decided that the way to do it, the fastest way to do it would be simply shooting particles from this emitter here into this object, and on collision, creating the splash. So on collision, we are not going to be seeing ever these particles here. We see them now because I unhide them, but let me just stop the meshing. Doesn't make sense. So the particles shoot the object, and what we want is when they hit the object, and we're going to hide now the original one, the other ones are produced. So it's the particles that are bouncing from the original object are the ones, like if you had a bullet hitting you, you will get this kind of a splash. So that's one way of doing this. Okay, we're not going to get into much detail. I have added some gravity, some wind forces, so I believe the wind is pushing side to side. Let me just unhide this to see. Yeah, the wind was just forcing the particles to move away. Then the drag just to slow down a bit the impulse, the initial impulse that it had, some noise, and also a very important demon that can give you really nice thin sheets of water, and especially avoid the cheese hole effect, as many call them, which is the sheeter demon. In this case, I had it disabled, but in the next example, I will enable it so you see how it works. So this is just a basic way of doing that. So if we don't want to do it this way, how can we do similar thing? Like, okay, this is not what I want. This is not it doesn't have the level of controllability that I want. We could do it like, for example, using this other technique. Again, check the graph, it's exactly the same. You see emitters, you see geometry colliding with emitters, you see forces. I'm going to keep repeating myself, but this is the way it is. It's put in your heads that it is straightforward to use. Imagine that we had someone with the knife or the sharp object hitting you in the skin. This is not a sharp object. It doesn't matter. I just animated this cube going into there, right? But what is inside? Well, tricky bit. Not tricky, but that's a trick. I have used, again, a fill object that I have filled with particles. So if I reset, you see that there are tons of particles there. I'm going to be shifting those using the filter diamond again, and this time using the condition greater than position and Y. I just need to, by hitting 2, 3, you go to an orthographic view. If you hit the G key, you should agree it, and just figure out a bit how high these particles are. We could also use the tooltip, tools, particle tooltip, and come here. So I can go to this one. And this also tells me the position is 0.618. So I would say anything over 0.7 in Y will be shifted. So I'm not going to be showing these ones. Obviously, the ones I'm going to be showing are the ones that I will shift to the container. So if I reset and simulate this, and to make this faster, we're going to be running, I think it will be okay. I don't know what frames per second do I have here. Okay, still have 25. I will show you how to treat the frames per second in the next one. What's happening there? You cannot see what's happening underneath. You only see that there are some particles, and let me disable the tooltip. There are some particles there. Let's hide the grid, hide the cube, and perhaps even hide all the gizmos which are in the way. Okay, we have this bunch of particles being produced from nowhere. No reason, and we see that, oh, something is happening there. Okay, this is what we wanted. We wanted something that is hitting you, and the reaction is a splash. But we don't want to see how that's done, and the way it's done is, as I show you, by using a pool and transferring the particles. So as I said, there are multiple ways of achieving the same effects. Now, you may think, okay, that is low res, that doesn't have too much resolution, and I would like to see the nice thin sheets of fluid instead of these, which are just bunch particles. Then the sheeted diamond is for that. Just to speed things up, I'm going to move to the next example, and then we'll see.
Quick before you
we'll
switch over.
Sorry, yeah. Cool.
There's a question about why is the filter node not connected to the emitter like the others?
Yeah, perhaps shouldn't be called a diamond, should be called something different, because no, it's confusing that we don't have it linked, or at least there should be some sort of dotted interconnection to reflect that it has some link to the emitters. But no, it hasn't been in 2012, and it's not graphically displayed in the relationship editor either. Yeah, we could call it an enhancement for the next version, try and find out a way of connecting that, because unless you know that you're using this filter diamond and what it's being used for, it could be a bit in no ground. I hope that answers the question. It shouldn't be linked because it doesn't have to be linked. I mean, it gets their links through here. Basically, that's the question. That's the answer. It's like the same with the fill object. We have the fill object, and we're filling the cube top open, but it doesn't. There is no link there. The link is here. Fill object, and have the link here. Okay. I'm gonna move to the next one, so we can manage to finish all the examples. The next one was this one. And this is, sometimes we get the question of what's the scale like in RealFlow? At what scale should I work? My answer most of the time is whatever works. And RealFlow uses, and if we put the grid and go to an orthographic view, uses 1 square meter as the each square that you see in the grid. So this is 1 meter. This is 1 meter. So in this case, we have this bottle here, which is something like 40 centimeters high, or a bit less maybe. What's the problem with doing that instead of like many people do, or if you create a single primitive here, it will come huge. If we use, let me just get rid of the rocket. If we use real scale, so to speak, the emitters that also, when they are created, have a huge radius, you see here, will need a lot of resolution, and resolution slows down quite a bit the simulations. So in this case, working at this small scale, just to prove that it works, and you can work at a real scale if you want. We need a lot of resolution in order to see something. Otherwise, if I leave it at the default, which is 1, we may see just 1 particle. If we just crank up that a bit, let's say 100, still few particles not enough to simulate. By the way, something like this, I would recommend using it, cranking up the substeps, the frames per second. So something like 300, because this would be like high-speed photography in any way. So high frames per second, high resolution, if we're working with low scale or real-time scale. So we get that going over. I believe I'm having it here. Yeah, that's emitting the variable speed. Probably added the curve here. No, yeah. I have had an expression where I like to use quite a lot of expressions to toggle things in and out. This says if the frame is under 25, the value is 1, so the speed will be 1. If the condition doesn't get fulfilled, then it will set to 0. So before the frame 25, the speed is going to be 1. After the frame 25, it goes down to 0. And you won't be emitting any particles, basically. So this is not going to be shown. Let's see if I got the cache probably better. I just ruined my cache. Good. Anyway, you can get the idea. If I probably go to a different example to see how this works in big scale, I can open the postcard that we did for Christmas, which is small. And that was simulated. Nice beta demo effect. Quickly go back. Let's go to mode. This was simulated without having or taking into account the large scale, and also it was using, in one hand, the proxy geo for the bottle and the final geo for rendering the preview in Maxwell. So what do we have here is exactly the same as I had in the other scene, which is just the circle emitter, but this time I haven't scaled anything down, and you see that the resolution is 1. So this will simulate way faster. And I haven't even had to crank out the frames per second, because this will look like, okay, it is a correct simulation. It's for a back shot. I mean, we don't want to see the whole simulation. And if we need it to slow it down or speed it up, we can always come to the retimer tool, which is here, and use a curve to slow that down, speed it up, do it in reverse or whatever. So we have this nice back shot that probably got simulated in no time because it's a bigger scale. And we want to mesh for that. Just go back to the particle measure, set it to anisotropic if you think that that's the way to go. Press build. We have a nice mesh. Then what we need to do is, okay, this is not going to be the geometry is going to show in the render, in the preview. So we hide it from Maxwell render. And what we put in the render is this one. And we hide also the particles. So if we simply hit F6, we should have a nice render similar to the one that you got with the postcard. And it will pick up all the texture because the materials for Maxwell, and if you go for materials here, they do have the NXM reference from the file that we made inside I believe it was. If we wanted to change the material for the splash and have something watery, just come here, whiskey, and that will change immediately to whiskey. I just rotated the camera. And I just need to remind you that Maxwell Render 1 asks you for a Maxwell license inside RealFlow. That's just when you're working on the 3D platform. Inside RealFlow, you will be using RealFlow licenses and still be able to do these nice splashes. And I think we've run in a bit short of time, so I'm going to skip the I lied to you. I said I was going to show you how to use a shader demo, but I'm going to just quickly give you some tips. If you leave it by default, it's going to create tons of particles. You don't want to do that. What you want to do is you come here and you animate the cavity detection radio and normally the max cavity side. between 1 and 1.5, I'd say. Those are values that are okay. But you can animate it. You can put a curve here or expression or even set keyframes there. You can also play with the relative speed. These are a bit more complicated to get right. I normally just use those two, and it gets working pretty nicely. So moving on to how did we do something like, and I had it parting waters because I was working on something different. I suddenly decided to create a current splash with Hybrido, not with SPH. Why? If you, this is a tricky one. If you do current splash in Google, you get tons and tons of references there, right? If you scroll down, you will even get something that I personally did with RealFlow 3 many years ago, and it was a pain to do that with. It was for a magazine, so they had to be restricted to the demo version. I don't know what it is now, but it should be somewhere there. Anyway, that was a slow process to do the simulation and also to do the rendering. The beauty now is that inside RealFlow, we can simply, because the setup is identical to the one that I was using when I used SPH. I had, let me show you the geometry so it kind of clears everything out. What you want when you try to create a crown splash is to have a thin layer of water, and I'm using this emitter here to create that. And that gets hit by something at very, very high speed, like this drop that will come down. So what I'm going to do is I fill this with water, so I create an emitter, and this emitter is a sphere. And I create another emitter, which is the bottom base. So this emitter has this cube. And then after that, I just apply a normal gravity and a bounded gravity to make that drop fall faster. Remember, the gravity are nothing but directional forces. They are not, I mean, we don't have to stick to 9.8. You can crank it up, you can do pretty much anything you want with them. So what I get is something like this. And this is already mesh, so you can see how cool this can be, even without that many particles. So you can have something like that, and if I hide, oops, I hidden the wrong one. If I hide the geometry and I hide the domain, just get this one, set it to Maxwell, set it to water ocean. I can put a plane underneath. So it's a pretty simple setup, just a drop of water falling on top of a plane, and if I hit F6, you get a nice crown splash. Probably not the best material to use on this one. We'd rather use water pure. You see how fast Maxwell is inside RealFlow as well. So there you go. You will have a crown splash that you can perfectly use for a product pack and any way you want. So, and also, yes, let me quickly show you. Images, I have some references I wanted to show you, and where are they? 1 minute, images, videos, yeah. Not exactly that, but if I stop here, you can see that there are ripples around the mesh. So you are able even to get these ripples with the new meshing algorithms inside RealFlow 2013. They are so good that they allow you to keep the flat surfaces and also all the thin detail around the particles. I think it's pretty impressive that we have such a good measure now at our disposal. Now that I'm here, I'm just going to run this simulation that I did for that crown splash. A few videos. I want to talk to you about one of the best ways to learn how to do the simulations is like looking at the real stuff. So we went last SIG vacation to Singapore, and we went to the Marina Bay Sands, and they have this really cool whirlpool there that you can see instantly. We tried to replicate it, and of course it works inside RealFlow 2013 with Hybrido too. You can go online and search for the Marina Bay Sands whirlpool, and there's tons of cool videos about that. This is the effect that you will see. So that was a simulation that we did here. We're going to move now to this one. Unfortunately, I lost this scene, but I'm going to try and show you how to do the same thing in two different ways. One is by using RealWave, which is something that perhaps is undervalued inside RealFlow. And the other one will be by using a hybrid. So if we go quickly to the car pilots process, RealWave. Okay. I modeled a very, very, very simple car in my 3D platform. Okay. I use cylinders for the wheels, and I use a polycube that I extruded a few times to get the shape of the car. And I have placed a RealWave here. If I just scroll on the timeline, I see that this is going over the RealWave. By just connecting this geometry to the RealWave, I will get something like this. And I hope that the cache is here now. Ooh, no. Okay, let me just quickly do it because it shouldn't take a minute. Yeah. You see that there is this interaction between the wheels and the RealWave. So it's straightforward. You just need to go in here now. Haha, don't get scared. If things are, and that's a piece of advice, if things are neat and tidy inside your RealFlow, you can have massive setups, all very organized. So this is just my collision geometry. These are the emitters I will show you in a second for the RealWave splashes. This is the RealWave object, and these are the forces that I am applying only to the particle emitter. So the basic that I was telling you about is still the same. The particle emitters have some geometry colliding and some forces. And in this case, quite a few of them, but nothing really daunting. So if I unhide these ones, what are they like? And I hope they're here, because they don't seem to be. Oh man, they were here, I promise. They were here earlier. Come on. I know why. Because I have this set to in the export to disable data export. So we just click on the top node of the group and do enable data export, or we can come here and do it from here. Export, enable data export now. So now the cache should appear. And it doesn't. That's cool. Right, because they are disabled. Simulation, let's put them to cache. Seems like my RealFlow has died now. Come on, man, get back to me. 1 second, I'm going to close it and open it again. This is again a beta and has a few hiccups. Better to close it than to let it crash. And we only have a few minutes left, so run.
Hey, got
here. Yes.
You can keep going past the 2 minutes. It's fine.
Okay. Fine.
You don't have to rush through it.
All right. Then let me just go back to this. Let's see. I don't know. I might not have the caches now. I thought I had them. I think I might have lost them. I was doing some cleaning, last minute mistake. See if we can run this quickly. They are damp. I can put them to damp particles so they run faster. And just set this to 1 in resolution for all of them. And that should do it. RealWave. Okay, let's see if this doesn't take too long to simulate. At least you will be able to see some of the splashes, and you're already seeing them here. Like as soon as the wheels interact with the RealWave, because we have added this RealWave object splash, and each of them is linked to an object, it's going to be creating the particles there. I can stop it now. And if I, again, hit F6 with Maxwell, we'll see that those particles will also be rendered. In this case, they were green and bulky. We can tweak in the particles, where are they? Maxwell. And tweak the radius, we can add multi-point feature, so we can multiply the number of points that are created. And of course, we can apply any of those. That. Maybe make them a bit. Right. So if we look like that. There you go. You see that we have a nice splash, and it's a shame that I don't have the other one because it had nice splashes all over the car. Tons of them. Don't know where. Even the video. Other one. Sorry about that. I might be able to upload it so you can see the whole thing to YouTube or Vimeo channels. And I think we are pretty much done. And last, because this was kind of a way of showing you that there were two ways of simulating this, or three ways. You can do this with the normal particles, the SPH. We can do this with RealWave, which to me is the fastest way. But probably the best way these days is to do it with the hybrid solver, which give you way better detail, like tons of detail everywhere, and also for free, the foam once those splash particles go back to the main body of water, and the foam has such a nice patterns that it wouldn't be a shame not to use hybrid instead of RealWave in this case. I was just pointing out that there are multiple ways of doing the same thing inside RealFlow. So I think we can move now to the last example, which is the rolling waves setup. I have created this kind of seashore, I believe it's 25 meters by 10 meters wide, 25 long, 10 meters wide. And I'm going to show all the geometry I have there so you see what I'm talking about. In a way, just put it simple, what you want is this box here emitting water, and it's going to be emitted in the intersection. So this is linked to the emitter that we have here, if I'm correct, cube 2. So this emitter will fill this with water, and then this will act as a cage because the new solver moves freely around, and we need something to stop that. I'm also using a killer volume, so I kill all the particles that may try to go outside that. We have to simulate the base of the solver in a single box, but after that we are free to send every single secondary element that we may think of, like foam, splashes, splash and foam together, waterline, which is the particles that are created around objects, and wet and foam. Wet is the emitter that we have, so objects, when they get touched by the hybrid solution, they will emit particles, and those drip down, and we can connect them to the geometry, so they will be also sliding down that geometry. If I just open all these groups that I have here, you may see all the elements that I have grouped. As I said earlier, try to be tidy and neat when you create your setups. These are all the secondary elements that I have. These are all the secondary diamonds that I have. But it's all nice and tidy. You can share this scene with any other user, and if you put some notes in here, they will be able easily, really fast, to understand what's going on. So I think I have these caches here now. Again, I've been playing around with caches all day, so I might have broken something. Go back, scroll. Let's see if I can find the video. It's easier to show it with the videos. All right, that scene produces this result. So in here, what we're seeing is the base solver, which is the main blue one, is the flip solver. And then, like here, you start to see splash particles. How do we get these splash particles to work? Inside RealFlow, we define, come on, it's not back to me. We have this secondary element here. If I activate it and show it, you see that it's a green box. This is the area where we have decided that those splashes should be. Again, we could split this in as many boxes as we wanted to and send this to the farm. We could come and say, okay, I want this just going crazy, 555. It will generate a huge amount of IDOCs, and each of these IDOCs could be sent to a different box in the farm if you wanted to. And the guys at Mr. X, who did the Resident Evil shot, they were using up to 60 RealFlow nodes in their farm to achieve that huge scale. So that's kind of the idea. I mean, you can generate, of course, amazing stuff in a single machine, but you need RealFlow nodes in order to A, generate the secondary elements faster for RealFlow, for Hybrido, and B, probably to do R&D. When you're doing R&D, you need to turn around tons of wedges all the time. Your supervisor is going to be changing his idea. You want to be able to show multiple versions during the day work. And we have a very fast solver. The flip solver is really, really fast now, but still, you need to have the power so you are able to show more things when you need to. So it's going to drive a bit more over this scene so you get to see that it's really, really simple. Perhaps I could even start from scratch with a single domain, but this is single, again, fluid emitter, forces, and geometry to collide with. All of this the same. Emitter, forces, geometry to collide with. It's all the same all the time. You just need to find out the right connections, but it's straightforward. If I go to a specific frame, maybe I'm able to show you the different passes that we have there. So right now we have only the splash loaded. So the splashes are born inside this box, but they can travel away. And in this case, I'm using, open this a bit more, down particles. And how do we know which type of particles to use? How do we know? Okay, let's show you sun stills. This is a shot I took while on holidays with my mobile phone. So this is something that you also could do easily and get references. To me, in here there are multiple elements. I could split this in different IDOCs and send different splashes to the farm. This is cows, pure cows, so you won't notice that they are not interacting among them. The problem is sometimes you are able to see, and your eye will catch things like this, all the fine detail that we have in here. Of course, this is still, and you're able to see even the air bubbles, and this will be really, really tricky to get right. But if you zoom in, you see that there's more and more detail. If you zoom out, you can get away, like in the distance with the volumetric or something like that. This is another example of how things can get away, or you can get away with things when simulating. In here, we could have multiple elements. We could have the sheet of water here that is produced by the car. Then we could have damp particles to generate all this mist. So don't think of a shot of RealFlow as a single pass. Think of it as a collection of layers of simulation that you will be putting together to make the thing work and make the eye full. Like this one, this is motion blur at its best. I mean, it's pointed at the camera. You could get away perfectly with damp particles, and those will simulate really, really fast. It's ballistic particles, damp, however you want to call them. They don't have fluid properties, so that calculation is extremely fast. Again, here you see that there are some particles in the air. This is all bubbly, and this kind of comes to the shot that we showed earlier with the jet skis. This is the perfect example of how Hybrido can now do these things. You can have a domain only that works up to here and have this rolling wave coming from here to there. From Hybrido, we are able to generate the displacement map in here. And this displacement is the same one that we could have with, I'm going to open RealFlow 2012 just for a second, in previous versions with the real wave statistical spectrum waves. So those textures are dialable. So from the infinite, and it's going to create a quick wave, right click, add a wave, statistical spectrum. This is similar to Houdini Ocean Toolkit as well. So you get that, which is a statistical spectrum wave. Depending on the size of your wave and the resolution, you will get better results in the viewport, but the texture gets defined somewhere else, especially in the case of Hybrido. you come here and you say, I want my texture to be 8K if I want to be big. I mean, film quality will need that probably, or maybe 2K, 4K, I don't know. Depends on the shot as well. But that will be outputting, and now we just noticed that we haven't gone to the export center today. That will get outputted to displacement texture. And in here, we can see all the new format that we have inside Hybrido and RealFlow 2013. We can send particles to be cached as Alembic files. Alembic integration with RealFlow is not only for geometry, but also for particles. We can send also through Krakatoa format. I believe that shot with the jet skis was using this format. The Hybrido GDCs in all versions has been split in two. One for the particles, GPCs, one for the fields, GFC. But that also, that's the default, and it's faster than an alternative that we have, which is using Field 3D and the particle caches as Alembic. Either Alembic or GPCs will allow you to decide which channels you want to output. Again, you also have Krakatoa, etc. And before I forget, one of the key features in this huge version for us is the simulation flow. And we haven't seen anything today, but I can simply come here and show you that we have a nice bunch of nodes already created. I think it's over 400 nodes now, and you will be able to create pretty much anything you think of, even compositing images and using the statistical spectrum images to deform geometry, to drive the initial state of the simulation of Hybrido. We are going to be updating the RealFlow. Someone was asking not long ago in the forums. This resources site is going to be revamped shortly, and it will include the RealFlow scene with the simulation graph and batch graphs. We will provide the scenes for people to download, and the community will instantly start moving this thing around and sharing the stuff. So it's going to be really, really cool. And what else can I tell you about this scene? All the scenes I've shown you today are pretty basic in a way, because I didn't want to get into a lot of trouble to show stuff, and they achieve really good results. This tells me that RealFlow is very straightforward. You don't need to get too complicated with your setups. Of course, you can if you want, and you can go as far as you want. You can even build your own C++ plugins and hook them up here in the simulation flow. So if you want, for example, export to a different file format, you could come here and add a plugin that reads the data from RealFlow and export that to whatever format you want. So the power is there. You just need to figure out how to use it. I think I'm done. Let me check. In the scenes, I don't know if we are going to be running over time now. You tell me. Right. Maybe I can show you this tunnel scene as well. I was doing the other day. Again, pretty straightforward. A domain with an emitter and a geometry that I modeled in Maya, and I deform it with the deformer. I'm only using gravity with the noise field and a kill volume to kill the particles that go outside. And maybe the cache is there. Second one, yeah. And you see that the water is rushing down. I can come here now, and I'm going to show you a couple of things now before I go. I can come to the high domain, and in the display tab, tweak the value that I want to cap these colors so I can see something nicer. So yeah, that's what you get. I'm going to be finishing in a second, don't worry. Where is it? Tunnel. You see any tunnel anywhere? Okay, I didn't have it here. Oh yeah, here it is. Go up. So this was running. Yeah, that's that scene. So very straightforward setup. You have an amazing rush of water, similar to what Mr. Guy did in Resident Evil. No time to do this setup. It's like it took me longer to model this or deform it than to do that setup. One thing that is important that I haven't mentioned as well is particle-based solvers like the SPH is going to be using the geometry itself for collision, whether the hybrid solver uses sign distance fields. And this is very important because now you have to be careful with how you build your geometry if you want them to interact properly. And now probably have way too small cell size and it's taking longer to show. But in this tab, you are able to show the slice planes and check that your geometry is correct. And it won't cause problems when using it with hybrid. I think I can leave it there. This probably is for another webinar, so I'll close the program. Just crash on me again. Maybe I can show you some last pictures that I was trying to show you today, where you can see again multiple variations of the same. You have a hybrid simulation here. You have displacement that you can add on top. You have the foam. You have the splashes. You have the spray particles as dam. Of course, the geometry interaction. And yes, all these to me would be like liquid particles. Maybe some of these are dam particles. Some of these would be liquid. Long setups. Again, you could chop here, do the rolling waves, extend the ocean using the displacement. This, you've seen that setup, so it's straightforward to do these ones. Again, folding stuff. Could get away with some dam particles meshed instead of render as particles. Chaotic scenes like massive waves. Maybe you could get away with some statistical spectrum and real wave. The problem is you wouldn't get the nice detail on the crest of the wave, so you will have to create a slightly higher domain in hybrid and simulate that. But as I said, you can use a displacement texture to drive the simulation at frame 0 now. Same one, it's tons of detail. You can get away with volumetric rendering. We have a mist I haven't shown you, and you can use it if you use Houdini with Field 3D to render that. This is an amazing shot because it has foam that you could even paint as a texture here, have a liquid splash, or this could be, as it's shown in this real-time UK shot in Vimeo, could be perfectly the base solver. This would be the secondary element. This would be splashes as liquid particles. And when they come back, they heat and they create foam, so it's pretty cool. Similar thing. This type of lighting, that would be Maxwell at its best. Crazy stuff, tons of interactive geometry. Yeah, it's a cool one. How big should I go? What's the scale? Look for references. That's my last tip. Look for references and try to work at the right scale for your eye. When you're simulating, you have to fool your eye. That's the main thing. If it fools you, or if it fools the audience, then you have achieved the goal. Leaving it there. All back to you, Brad.
Okay, great, thanks. Just real quick, I know there was a lot of questions coming in at the end there, and we'll just try to get, well, we will get to all of those via email, just so if I didn't answer your question, we will get to those and send those to you soon. Also, a lot of people are asking about when RealFlow 2013 will be released, and
we can say it's going to be before SIGGRAPH. It's not long away. I mean, we are already allowing testers to upload stuff to Vimeo and the social media channels because we're confident that the results that we are producing with the beta are production ready. So there are some people already using it in real jobs. So.
Yeah, okay.
In the second quarter, basically.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, if you guys have any other questions, I'm going to send out my email address, so feel free to ask me after this. Otherwise, type them in now, and we will get to them via email. And also, just so you know, anybody, if you purchase RealFlow 2012 right now, if you don't already own it, you will get a free upgrade to 2013. So you can also contact me about that, and I can get you some pricing info and whatnot.
Also, if you are on support maintenance, it's very important.
Yeah, or if you're on current maintenance, you will also get the free upgrade. So I just want to say thanks to Gus, And thanks everybody for coming. Hopefully you guys can become better ninjas now. And that's it.
Well, I hope they were happy with the stuff we show. I know it's a lot to take in just an hour. It's always rushing over scenes rather than simulating, but simulating during webinar is a tricky one.
Yeah, yeah. All right, well, thanks guys for coming, and look for my email.
All right, thanks everyone.
All right, thanks guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.